piece of land at the top of a mountain. I think Hassan has been here.
Right, I see.
And yeah, my presentation is ready.
All right.
Let me tell you just a little bit about myself. Like, I teach bioethics and I do research on bioethics. And since last year, we, as a team, we got a large research grant from JST, Japanese Science and Technology Institute. And we have been doing research about ethics of artificial intelligence. And I'm one member of the team, and my job has been to focus on the ethics of artificial intelligence. Other members may look at the social and other aspects of the issue. And this presentation I'm giving you today is based on a paper that has been submitted for review and is under review. And yeah, I will be very happy presenting it to you. Can I share my file and my presentation?
Of course. Should I make a very brief introduction, Professor? If
please, yes.
Then we can get started. So we're going to get started with the second day of our conference. The first day was very joyful, and we had very distinguished speakers from different parts of the world. And today is going to be the same. So hopefully, Professor Nadir Gotbe, he introduced himself. So he's a professor at Ritsumeikan, I think. Sorry for my pronunciation if it is
it's
wrong.
Totally correct. It's correct.
University from Japan. His research areas are environmental health, health finance, public health, bioethics, and he's going to present ethics and moral awareness of artificial intelligence today. So I would like to give the floor to Professor Nadir Gotbe. Professor, you can use the share screen button at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that. It says host disabled.
Right, sorry. It's a technical issue. I'll let my friends, just a second, sorry about this.
So if you're the host, you can click on the, the side of the share screen, and there are options. You can allow me to share.
Gelmedi daha hocam. Okay, Professor, you can share your screen now. It should be okay at the moment.
Okay, yeah, it's fine. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
So that's what I could get about the information on the conference. And that's the topic of my presentation, ethics and moral awareness of AI. And you see my affiliation here. So what I will do in this presentation is that first I will make a short presentation on the most important issues, moral issues regarding the use of AI. And then I will refer to a study I did at APU, our school, on the awareness of our students, college students, regarding AI ethical issues. So this is just an introduction, a few slides about, it's based on literature review. The references will come at the end. I didn't include it here because it makes the page too crowded. So basically, the ethical issues of AI are related to the general issues of benefit versus harm. Justice and fairness is another main topic. One topic is about moral agency, because when a machine is given the job of and the responsibility of taking care of a sensitive act, sometimes it could be surgery, moral agency, and finally transparency regarding whether people understand what is happening underneath. You know, how does a machine make a decision? Benefits are a very important aspect, of course. AI provides a lot of benefits. These benefits result from the machine's ability to examine a lot of data at a very short time. It can optimize many processes and improve efficiency. And by doing that, it can have economic benefits and increase wealth in society. And it may also in the future help us be more sustainable. So there are a lot of benefits. There is no wonder in that, but there are at the same time some risks. These risks may be related to not using them enough, meaning opportunity cost, not using AI in places that there would be benefits, or there could be mis or overuse of AI. And when we talk about mis or overuse of AI, these are some of the issues: loss of transparency, loss of accountability, loss of privacy, loss of individual freedom. Mistakes may happen, bias and discrimination in decisions by machines. There may be some impacts on vulnerable groups. Unemployment is one of the main concerns nowadays. There may be opportunities for hackers to come breach the system, security issues. There may be threats to democracy, and there are also even concerns about machines becoming autonomous. And what should we do about machine consciousness in the future? It hasn't happened, but that's a possibility. So a very big one was unemployment. Unemployment, of course, is important. Why? Because having a job has a lot of benefits: health benefits, psychological benefits, social benefits. So if somebody loses his job because of AI, there is ethical harm. Already this has happened. In Japan, there were formal reports about people losing their job, actually being transferred to a different section because some company decided to replace them with an AI system. So the cognitive technology of this system could think better than a human and do a good job. It was mostly about decisions regarding insurance. So some job losses have already happened. Some more may be underway. But the issue here is that any new technology can cause some unemployment. It's not just AI. Industrial revolution and many other new technologies, that nanotechnology, so many technologies have caused some people to actually lose their job, and usually it's about transferring those jobs to a different section. So the overall impact of AI on employment is not that easy to ascertain. It's quite complicated. Some jobs may be lost because they are very repetitive, they're structured, and a machine can do them much better. Some jobs may not be lost, especially if there's an interaction with people, and that job requires creativity, requires social intelligence, and is happening in an unpredictable environment. AI experts nowadays believe that the large impact of AI is still a few decades away from us. So we have time to actually adapt. We have time to allow people to actually expect what kind of jobs may be less available in the future. So unemployment was one issue. The other issue is the possible impact of AI on emotions. The sensing and perception of human emotions is an important issue. I will discuss it soon under the issue of privacy and under the issue of social control. The other thing is how robots may impact human emotions. And the other issue is whether robots will show emotions, and then we have to think about robots' rights, similar to the concept human rights. In Japan, there's already a large number of various robots that are being used because of their emotional usage. So you see the chatty Charlie from Yamaha, the humanoid Robohon from Sharp, the dog robot Aibo from Sony, the friendly Pepper from SoftBank, the pet-like Kubo from Yukai company, and the heartworm. As you see, all these robots have a name that gives them an emotional character. So the emotional interest in robots in Japan is quite unique. You don't see that much in other cultures. One interpretation is that in Japanese culture, objects can have a soul. And so Japanese customers, they don't think of machines as not having a soul. They think of them that, and potentially they can have a character, and they're interested in that. Some people may say no, machine emotions are fake, human emotions are real. Some others may respond that no, in fact, in a social context, very often humans also fake their emotions. That's actually what we call emotional intelligence, the ability to respond emotionally in appropriate ways, not in actually how we feel like. So if you're angry, we don't show our anger. We try to control it and show a different emotion. So that probably it doesn't really matter if a machine is showing a fake emotion, humans do that too. So the next issue is whether AI will make mistakes. And it's a very interesting example because we see the complexity of balancing risk versus benefiting in the case of AI. It will be especially important in the healthcare industry and in healthcare uses. Machines are non-predictable. The possibility of machine making a decision that is not predicted, what we may call machine autonomy, can reduce the trust of people to AI. The issue of responsibility in AI can be classified into various legal, aspects: accountability, liability, and culpability. Basically, we know a lot of AI systems are not advanced enough to give, all the trust to the AI. There should be a human observer in charge of the AI system. Otherwise, accidents happen. And it has already been reported a lot in autopilot system of vehicles. A very big ethical issue that nowadays is on the news, especially regarding China's use of AI. It was in the news in over Uyghur people. Is about the issue of control of society using AI. Interestingly, Japanese society doesn't seem to be so sensitive about the possibility of social control. And this is one of the things I checked in this study, as you will see. The government promotes the use of social robots to help with its aging population. And a lot of people are not concerned that AI could be misused for social control. In China and in Russia, we already have published studies. The Chinese social credit system has become very infamous. AI technologies are used to actually do a lot of surveillance on citizens. And by doing that, they, depending on how they behave, we provide them a credit, and somehow we try to control what they do. In Russia also, there are some tools that some of them have now even become commercialized, and they are being used for this kind of social management. If this kind of technology becomes more common, low and middle income countries are more vulnerable. In developed countries, there are laws to try to control how much this is being used, but you know, a lot of low and middle income countries probably won't have that kind of protection. Another issue is the possible impact on equality in the society, and inequality may increase. Why? Because AI can increase the share of capital as opposed to labor, and by doing that, it can make a lot of high-skilled people, you know, put them at more risk compared with those who have more capital to buy robots, to buy machines. Some of the solutions that have been suggested are taxation of capital and a basic universal income. Another possible ethical issue is biased AI decisions, especially in the area of race and gender. It has already been reported in literature how gender discrimination and racial discrimination happens simply because machines follow algorithms that are prepared based on deeply embedded biases that already are everywhere. And so this is not an easy thing to correct, and it would require a multidisciplinary approach. We have to make corrections in social systems, legal systems, and you know, also try to implement that in the decision-making algorithms written for machines. Privacy will be, of course, endangered. Surveillance, and very often governments justify that by saying that security is needed. The private sector may also, you know, intrude into people's privacy for advertising, for marketing and sales, and say, you know, we are trying to make AI systems better, perform better, and so we should do this. There's a possibility of manipulating and exploiting human users and, you know, eroding the human right to privacy. Malicious AI, you see a lot of that in media, in movies. There are actual cases. Automated fraud targeting social media users, and manipulation of some financial markets, again, using these machines. Deep fake is another, you know, phenomenon. It has been used for psychological warfare, and it synthesizes human images that are not real, but they look so real. So they're called deep fake. And finally, organized crime may use AI, and it's going to happen. Security risks are another ethical issue. You know, cyber attacks, it has already happened in many places. Hackers have breached the security of the system and then asked for a ransom to free the system. And some of these systems, you know, had to pay a lot of money to improve their security. So security risks are also another issue. So what kind of research did I do? I did a survey, and I wanted to examine two things. One was, how much do students know about ethical issues of AI while AI is advancing so fast? And the other thing, I wanted to see whether the education system has contributed enough to their understanding of AI ethical issues. So in large classrooms of college students, I did surveys, and there were many surveys. We could enroll 478 students. 11 students only didn't want to cooperate, so they were free totally to drop out of the study. But we had a very good willingness of students to participate. And we had 152 Japanese students and 315 non-Japanese students. So as you see, about a third of students were Japanese, 2/3 were non-Japanese, and they were from China, Korea, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Uzbekistan, Mongolia, India, Bangladesh, and a few from other nationalities. The numbers, I'm not reporting them because the numbers of each country were not large enough for a statistically significant comparison. So the only thing I could do, as you will see the data, was to compare Japanese versus non-Japanese. The survey question was, artificial intelligence has the potential to cause a number of ethical issues. Which one of them do you think is the most important, and explain why? And I offered 10 possibilities, and I asked for an explanation. Why? Because I didn't want students to offer an answer on impulse. I wanted them to really think about them and consider, the response that they really wanted to do. And these are the data. So these are the number of students by nationality, Japanese, non-Japanese, and by gender. And these are the number that refer to any one of the 10 problems. And as you will see, the largest number referred to unemployment as the most important issue. So the most common concern was over unemployment, about 58%. The second most important concern, interestingly, was about emotional AI. So it was about 12% overall. Together, emotional AI and unemployment represented 70% of all students' concerns, and the remaining 30% went to the other remaining ethical issues: AI control of society, discrimination, inequality, privacy, mistakes, malicious AI, security risks. And I used the Z-score for comparing proportions to look for statistical significance of any difference in the proportion of Japanese versus non-Japanese, male versus female, regarding the choices they made. There were only 4 areas that the Z-score showed a statistically significant difference, and they are very interesting. First, as you will see, Japanese students were much less concerned about AI control of society. The Z-score was -3, and the p-value was less than 100. And the other area was discrimination. Japanese students were much more concerned. The Z-score was larger than 2 with a p-value of 500. The other interesting thing was regarding gender. So females were more concerned about unemployment. Males were more concerned, females were less concerned about unemployment, males were more concerned, and females were more concerned about discrimination. So when it's minus, so females are less concerned. When we see a plus number, again, we see females more concerned about discrimination. So what does this all mean? This means that AI control of society, which is a very important issue, apparently we have already serious cases, is not a top priority, especially for Japanese students, while discrimination happens to be relatively a much more bigger concern for female students. Overall, the most common concern is unemployment. I don't see it as a very good thing. I think it shows a lot of our students are not aware of so many problems related to AI, but especially unemployment concern was more common among males. We may explain it as males consider employment in our society more important for their livelihood. The other thing we can explain it is that females probably are more concerned about more important issues such as discrimination, that usually females are a bigger target of discrimination. That is why they are more concerned about the issue of discrimination. So more awareness about discrimination among females can be also a good reason. And their experiences, the personal experiences of gender discrimination may have played a role in making the choices they made. The second most important concern was over emotional AI. The issue is Is it really a big issue? And will we have intelligent robots in the future who will be conscious and will be able to feel sadness, joy? Is it possible? When you do a literature review, everybody talks about the issue of consciousness, whether consciousness in machines will be possible. Consciousness has a very subjective, aspect. And I studied this, and you see, how do we know about the subjective sense of consciousness in other humans, in other species? A consciousness depends on a bodily system to sense and perceive the environment. Humans, because of their brain cortex, they appear to have a high level of self-awareness. Machines may have, in the future, neural networks may develop into a very powerful intellectual system, similar maybe to the brain cortex. But how about they not being living systems? So here I use the issue of, we can approach this from a bioethical perspective, and whether a non-living system can really gain self-awareness. What is the role of the element of life? Does AI need to feel emotions subjectively to have consciousness? In that case, is it possible that we will have cyborgs on the way to have machine consciousness? Cyborgs meaning, a mixture of human and machine. I have only one page to finish. So the small number of students concerned about other issues, such as inequality, privacy, mistakes, it was a little disappointing. One of the issues that had a very small reference to was social control. And my conclusion, this is my last page, was that this study of a large sample of college students in a multicultural university with a lot of international Japanese students demonstrated the most common ethical concern was over unemployment. But there are a lot of many other, moral issues related to AI that I thought could be mentioned by students, but they got a very small number. And so what I can say is that the awareness of students regarding AI ethical issues is quite limited. And it's mostly over unemployment. And so one possibility is it possible that a lot of students simply reflected on their main personal worries in their everyday life rather than the ethical issues of AI system, meaning that simply what they are saying does not relate directly to AI. They are concerned about their everyday issues. And if that's the case, that means our educational system is not providing enough about AI, and AI is a very important technology. It's progressing, advancing very fast, and we need to increase the awareness of our students by including more information about that. The last two slides show my references, and here I can finish my talk. And if you have questions and I have any time left, I can answer your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Nadir Bey. Such an excellent presentation, and thank you so much for your valuable contribution. I think we still have a couple of minutes for questions. Are there any questions from the floor? Any questions?
Yes, I have a question to.
Yes,
yeah. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Professor Shamima.
Yes. Actually, my question is the autonomous AI has the autonomous autonomy and autonomous body. Actually, if we compare with a human brain, the neocortex, that means the outer cortex, that concern regarding the consciousness. But the emotion, which is the big problem of the AI, that is the neocortex. Actually, primitive people have the neocortex. Evaluation said that they have the neocortex, archaeocortex, which is responsible for emotion, fear, rage, fight, flight. So if the AI system, AI life cycle, they can develop the emotional system, that means which is archaeocortex with the human brain. So there is possible to provide emotion like the human. Is there actually, I don't know, yes, there is the experiment is going on. I like to ask the Nadir, do you have any information regarding this one? Thank you.
Actually, in the area of emotion, there has been a lot of advances. First, machines have already been manufactured and even marketed that express emotions. They show emotions. You can go and buy them in Japan. The other thing is that AI can actually sense human emotions. What they do, they look at the face, they look at the tone of voice, and they use algorithms, and they have databases to actually judge the emotions of people. It has been used in surveillance of people. And the recent report I told you that you can find it in the news was that the Chinese government is actually doing a large experiment on Uyghur people to actually sense their emotions, and sometimes just by sensing negative emotions, ascribe them, guilty verdict. So the misuse of AI in sensing emotions is a huge issue. It is happening in many places. The other thing, whether machines actually feel these emotions, no. They actually, the algorithms so far are not that advanced. We were thinking that maybe in the future, if machines can develop consciousness, is it possible that they will be able to act like humans, feeling emotions, respond autonomously? And that is an area that is under research, and I only can say, and you saw that in my presentation. There are questions, but there are so far no good answers. Some people say maybe, some people say probably not, some people say probably yes. And my perspective was that from a bioethical perspective, because they are not living, probably we won't have anytime soon that level of emotional expression. But this will be based, machine learning and deep machine learning, but not really machine consciousness. I hope I answered your question. Thank you very much for asking that.
Thank you, Nadir.
Are there any other questions? We have 1 more minute. All right.